In this video, I'm going to look at a couple key players that are having really slow starts to the 2023 season. Let's dive into the details and see if we should be worried about them. Hey everybody, thanks for joining me in my channel, Brutus on Baseball. This past week, I put a few stories up on my Instagram account, all about players that are having slow starts to their 2023 season. There's some pretty big star names here, and I wanted to ask the question, are you worried about them because of their slow start? I asked the question in the context of collecting baseball cards, but it really applies whether you're a card collector or whether you're just a fan. Should we be worried about these players, or will everything be okay? What I wanted to do here is take a deeper dive into the stats, instead of making just a gut decision to see what the stats really tell us about a slow start and if we should be worried or not. Let's get right to it and start with the first one up, Alex Bregman. When you look at the results, about half the people said they're a little concerned, so they're holding his cards for now. Only 17% said that he'll be fine on buying, so not a lot of optimism around Bregman. And about 31% said this is a bad sign, sell now. Now, I will say that some of this could be because people don't like Bregman very much, especially because of his history with the Astros and the sign stealing scandal. So some of these people could be saying sell now because they just don't like him as a player. But I wanted to dig into the stats a little bit. And the way that I do that is I look at Baseball Savant. Anybody who's not familiar with this website, it tracks some important stats that go deeper than just batting average on base percentage and tell us how hard is he hitting the ball? Is he chasing the ball when he shouldn't be? And anything that is in red is great. Average is kind of a gray color and poor is blue. So we can see that Bregman's doing really, really well right now in terms of whiff percentage, K percentage, chase rate, and he's walking a lot. But his average exit velocity, his barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, those are all a little bit on the low side, in the lower half of Major League Baseball players. But what we need to do next, beyond just looking at what he's done this April, is to see how that compares to his previous seasons. What would we typically see out of an Alex Bregman season? Well, if you look at barrel percentage, for example, his 2023 at 6.7, it's pretty much in line with what we would expect out of Bregman and higher than his career average. His exit velocity of 88.6 is right there in line with what we would typically expect. And it's pretty amazing how consistent his exit velocity is, right around 88, 89. His hard hit percentage, again, is right in line with what we would expect. His K percentage is really low, and his walk percentage is actually pretty high for his career. So what's all this telling me? Well, I think that we're going to see another Alex Bregman-like season. It may not be the top 5 MVP caliber that we've seen in the past, but I think we'll see another solid season for an all-star type player. Another way that we can look at this is looking at his percentile rankings year over year. And we'll see right away that most of his rankings are right in line once again with what we would expect for his career. His hard hit percentage is higher than it's been for the last 3 years, and his walk and strikeout rates are phenomenal. So these again confirm that Bregman is likely to recover and have a pretty good season in 2023. So if you like Bregman, if you collect him, you're probably a pretty safe bet to at least hold his cards and write it out and see what happens. I would actually rank Bregman as a buy right now for me. I like Bregman. I collect him a little bit, and his cards are really cheap right now for somebody that actually could be on a Hall of Fame path if he continues this for a sustained period of time. The next guy that I asked about was Francisco Lindor. Now, the majority of people, 55%, said that they're holding for now. They're just a little bit concerned about what they're seeing. And among everybody else, they're pretty evenly split between he'll be fine, I'm buying, and this is a bad sign, I'm selling. So overall, it seems like people are willing to hold Lindor. Well, let's dig a little bit into the stats and see what they show us. What they're showing me here is that his average exit velocity, his max exit velocity are pretty good. Hard hit percentage, barrel above average, but his whiff percentage, his K rate, are pretty low. So he's actually swinging and missing a lot more often this year for whatever reason. And sometimes that's a little bit concerning as players age. Lindor's not that old, but when you do get into your mid-30s, you start to see the K percentage, the whiff percentage increasing a little bit more. Well, let's look at how his stats look compared year over year with his past performance. Again, we look at barrel percentage, we look at exit velocity, we look at hard hit percentage. It's all pretty much in line with what we would expect from him. So his swing overall is not that different from what it has been in previous seasons. But his strikeout percentage is almost 26%. That is crazy high compared to what we've seen over the course of his career. And it's been climbing every year for the last several. If we go on and we look at his percentile rankings year over year as well, we'll see that again, his hitting is not that far off from what we'd expect. His barrel percentages, his hard hit percentages are pretty good. But his K percentages, whiff percentages, expected batting average, way lower than what we would expect. So for me, Lindor gives me a little bit of pause. I probably agreed with the vast majority of people here that I'm a little bit worried, and I'm going to hold for now. I wouldn't be surprised if he recovers, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see him slow down a little bit more. Either way, for me, it's not a buying opportunity, it's not a selling opportunity. I just want to wait it out and see what happens. The next guy up, Carlos Correa. Correa was the only player out of the ones that I put out there that had more of a negative response than the positive or neutral responses. He got 45% of the people saying that his slow start is a bad sign and they should sell now. Now, Correa's story is another one, like Bregman, that's a little bit different because of his history. Even more people don't like Correa because of his history with the Astros and just generally not being all that likable for fans across the board. Add into the mix the offseason that just happened where he signed with the Giants, he signed with the Mets. Both deals were backed out of by the teams because they were worried about medical records for his ankle. And I think a lot of people start to question, well, what's the long-term viability of having his cards as an investment? Is he going to slow down faster than others? Is he going to break down sooner because of leg issues? And for that reason, we probably have a lot of people from my poll saying they're just not getting into Correa because it's too much of a question mark. Putting that aside, let's look at the stats and see what the stats actually tell us about his performance. What we see here is that he's got some pretty low dark blue circles. Average exit velocity, expected batting average, expected slugging. Not the sort of thing we'd want to see. Hard hit percentage is below the 50th percentile. Barrel percentage is okay. Whiff and K rates are about average as well. So overall, his eye at the plate, his discipline is still okay, but he's not squaring the ball up consistently, and his bat is lagging behind. Now, how does this look over the course of his career? When you look at that a little bit closer, it tells a little bit of a different story. His barrel percentage, 9.7, is right in line with what we've seen historically. His hard hit percentage is lower, and his exit velocity is lower as well. Now, studying this, looking for a reason why, what I focus in on is the launch angle. He has a launch angle of almost 19 compared to an average over the course of his career of 10.5 and recent years somewhere between 11 and 12. Now, launch angle is a good thing to be able to lift the ball a little bit, but if you lift the ball too much, you're not going to hit the ball hard anymore. Now, what could be the cause of this? Who knows? Maybe he's got a lingering issue, maybe it's his timing, maybe he's just off to a slow start. It's really hard to say with Correa, and if we look at his percentile rankings over the course of his career, we see a lot of blue here, which is a little bit concerning. But do I think he can get back on the right path? I think he could probably fix his swing and get back into the groove of things, especially knowing that Correa has historically been a pretty streaky hitter. My answer to the question would probably be, I'm a little concerned, I'm going to hold for now. And I wouldn't blame anyone for picking the sell now decision because of leg injuries. But I will say this too. If anybody answered, he's fine, I'm buying, you could be buying a player at a really great time that could recover and be great for a long period of time. So Correa is a tough one to play. If you like him, great. For me, I'm just holding for now, waiting it out and seeing what happens. Next one up after Correa is Manny Machado. Machado was the one player on my poll that had the most positive responses, so the exact opposite of Correa. A total of 61% said he'll be fine, I'm buying. 29% I'm a little concerned, holding for now, and 10% saying it's a bad sign, sell now. I think one reason for this is because of Machado's past. He has been around for a long time and been one of the best players in baseball for an extended period, so there's probably a lot more people that are willing to rely on his track record. He's probably in the top 5 to 10 current players that are most likely to make the Hall of Fame. So what do Machado's stats tell us? Well, he's an interesting one. He's got a lot of blue showing here. Really poor performance and whiff percentage. Chase rate is really bad. Expected batting average, expected slugging. He's striking out too much and he's not walking enough. It's just not looking very good, with the exception of how hard he hits the ball. So when we dig into the stats a little bit, what do they tell us? Well, his barrel percentage right now is the lowest of his career. Average exit velocity is the lowest of his career. And his hard hit percentage is the lowest of his career. So there's something off right now with Machado. He's the one guy on this list so far that's not hitting the ball at all like he used to. So it makes you wonder what's going on. I do notice that his strikeout percentage has climbed drastically, and his walk percentage has tumbled this season to the lowest of his career. He's chasing a lot more than he typically did. This to me is a little bit concerning. But overall, I think I'm on board with what most people think. This is a slow start for Manny Machado. He has too long of a track record doing things really great, and I don't think that this is the Machado that we're going to be seeing going forward. And although his season will be down compared to last year's, I think it's still going to be a pretty good season. The next guy in my poll was Juan Soto, another player that is really dividing collectors right now. He was a hobby darling for several years, and there's a large contingent of people that think that he will get back on track. He's a great investment for the future, and there's a lot of people that seem to think that he is never going to recover the form that he had early in his career, and this is the new Juan Soto that we'll see going forward. And you can see from the results, it's an even split almost across the board. But his cards have definitely taken a hit recently, and it's an easier entry point into the Juan Soto collecting world. Let's look deeper at his numbers and see what we see. Right off the bat, look at all that red. Average exit velocity, barrel percentage, hard hit percentage, walk percentage, chase rate, all really good. So when he's hitting the ball, he's hitting it hard, and his discipline at the plate is not taking a hit. But what we do see is his whiff percentage and his strikeout percentage is low. Well, let's see how the start of this season compares to previous seasons by Soto. And I will point out here right away, but a lot of other people point out, he's currently at the beginning of his 6th season in the major leagues and still only 24 years old. There's a ton of players out there that don't even start playing in the major leagues until they're 24. But when we look at this, his barrel percentage is right there with what we would expect. Average exit velocity, again, right there and really good. His hard hit percentage, the highest of his career so far. So he is hitting the ball really well. A couple of things I do notice here. His launch angle is down compared to previous years and his career average, but not a whole lot. But his strikeout percentage is way higher than it has been in his career, even going back all the way into when he was 19 years old. His walk percentage is great, but he's swinging and missing and striking out more often than he has, especially compared to the last 3 seasons. You look at his percentile rankings over the last few seasons, again, pretty in line except for a few. His strikeout percentage, his whiff percentage is much worse than it has been in previous seasons. And that's really where he's faltering right now. For whatever reason, he's swinging and missing too often. It's really hard to say what that reason is, but there's just too much consistency here, at least to me, showing that he is still the same hitter, the same player that he has been. And in my opinion, this is another slow April, which is not out of the norm for Juan Soto. So for all the people jumping off the bandwagon, looking at these stats gives me a lot of hope that we'll see the Juan Soto return that we've seen previously. Now I will give a shout out real quick to Scotty B Cards, who made a video about Juan Soto and concerns that he had playing in Petco Park, which I think was one of the worst parks in terms of stats for Juan Soto's career. There could be something to that. Maybe he has difficulty seeing the ball at the park there. Maybe he's adjusting to all the different new parks that he's seeing on a more regular basis. But whatever it is, I'm still fairly confident that the Juan Soto that we loved in the past is still in there and he'll make a comeback. For that reason, I would classify Juan Soto right now as he's going to be fine, I'm buying. Don't take this as investment advice for you. That's just my opinion on what I do. You make your own decisions. But I just see so much red here that I don't see how he couldn't continue to be an all-star for many seasons to come. He may not be the next coming of Mike Trout, but nobody is. He's Juan Soto, a great baseball player who will continue to be great, in my opinion, for years to come. And then the last guy that I put on my poll is Luis Robert Jr. Now what's different about Lou Bob is that he doesn't have the history. He hasn't actually put together a full season of quality stats without being injured or going through a major slump. So what we're going off here when we're collecting Lou Bob cards is potential only. The results from my poll here were 20% saying that he'll be fine, they're buying his cards, 43% that they're a little concerned holding, and 37% that it's a bad sign and they're gonna sell. The one thing I will say, if you do like Lou Bob, if you believe in his future, now is a great time to buy in because his cards are cheaper than they ever have been. But let's dig into the stats for Lou Bob a little bit more. He actually started off really hot the first week of April, but he has had an extreme cool-off period the last 3 weeks. And when we look at these stats, you can see how cold his numbers are by how much blue is on that screen. His average exit velocity, his hard hit percentage are really low. His whiff percentage, K rates, chase rates, walk percentages, extremely low. So it becomes quite obvious, not only does he have poor plate discipline, he also is not hitting the ball when he does make contact. And that, to me, is extremely concerning. He does not have as much history as other players. His barrel percentage, his exit velocity is right there in line with his career average. His launch angle, his hard hit percentage is quite a bit lower than his career average, which is a concern. But most importantly, look at that K percentage and the walk percentage compared to the other players that we've looked at. That strikeout percentage is really high, and the walk percentage is astronomically low. And the thing is, it's not that out of the ordinary with what we've seen from him in the past. His maximum exit velocity is really high, meaning he's capable of hitting the ball hard. But it seems to me that his plate discipline is just so poor that he doesn't get anything very good to hit. The pitchers know that he's going to chase whatever they throw to him, so he's not going to get anything in the middle of the zone to square up on. And as a result of that, he's going to continue to struggle. To me, Luis Robert's slow start is a bad sign, and I would probably sell now if I had a lot of his cards. The problem is his cards are very cheap right now. So if you do want to sell it, you're probably not going to get your money back for them. But overall, I'm just not looking at Luis Robert as a long-term collector or investor anymore. I'm just not buying into it after looking at these stats. I'd love for him to prove me wrong, but for myself, I just can't do it anymore. So those are the 6 players that have had really poor April starts in 2023, and what people think, what I think about the rest of the year and going forward for them. Make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, share the video with anybody you think might enjoy it. Until next time, keep talking baseball, and we'll see you around.